Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. With all the Christian Horner drama over the last few days, it's easy to forget that Lewis Hamilton is joining Ferrari, but Mercedes are going to try their best to stop Hamilton gutting the team of engineers and key personnel even further with a non-poaching clause which is coming into effect, preventing Hamilton from trying to convince Bono, Shovlin among others, to leave Mercedes for Ferrari. Will this move from Mercedes though actually make any difference? Because it doesn't necessarily prevent Ferrari doing their own diligence in terms of trying to get these guys. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks also for the crazy support in yesterday's video. I think that's the first ever video on the channel with 100k views. Mind-blowing stuff. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all the new subs as well. And we've got lots to dive into. Firstly, some good news. Can you believe it? On the calendar front, the Silverstone Grand Prix, British Grand Prix, will be confirmed as a continuation on the calendar for another decade. This, I mean, look, the British Grand Prix really should never go anywhere. But there's been some concern, right? Given the move away from traditional circuits, more towards street circuits, whether circuits like Suzuka, circuits like Silverstone, even circuits like Spa could be under threat in the near future. For Silverstone, at least, that's not the case, and that is good news. However, there is talk about this. The Chicago Grand Prix. We saw the other day now, Formula 1 had verified a trademark for the Chicago Grand Prix, and we thought, oh, here we go again, because they'd done this for Las Vegas, they did this for Miami, they also did this for New York, but the New York one never happened. So the Chicago one may not happen, but sources reveal that there are extensive plans to host a Chicago Grand Prix, probably around about the Canadian Grand Prix. So, I mean, look, if it is a Chicago Grand Prix, it's going to be a street track. They'll probably call it a hybrid track, won't they, to try and pretend that that's not actually what it is. We do have a couple of car launches coming soon. Some teasers on the Visa Cash App RP. I'm just going to call it the Racing Bull. And they're going all out for this launch, by the way, because they've got Kendrick Lamar, they've got Baby Keem out there to perform at the V-Carb car launch, or whatever you guys want to call it. I'm just going to say Racing Bull. Actually, it looks kind of nice, I'm not going to lie. This might be one of the liveries that actually saves the set of liveries this year, because there have not been many good ones. Silver, blue, apparently seems to have some promise as far as I'm concerned, so stay tuned. The Red Bull, though, will be the same. In case Red Bull try and convince you otherwise, Max Verstappen literally said it on stream yesterday that, yeah, the RB20 is going to look exactly the same as the previous car. It's no surprise, right? I mean, they've had this same livery for however long now, but Max, he's not afraid of just telling us all that, yeah, don't even bother watching the Red Bull reveal. It's going to be the same as last year's livery. But speaking of Red Bull, there has been a further update on the whole Christian Horner allegations drama of the last few days. We saw back on February the 6th here, Joe Soward said that there is believed to be some sort of relationship between Horner and Newey to protect one another. At least historically, that might have been the case, such as if one leaves, the other can as well. So this potentially opens the door for if Horner is fired or like just leaves for whatever reason. I'm sure we'll discuss that probably tomorrow, because rumours are that they have a hearing. I think it's even been confirmed. There's a hearing with Horner over these allegations happening at Red Bull tomorrow, so I imagine there'll be more updates on that coming very shortly. But if Horner goes for whatever reason, rumour was Newey could go as well, and of course that means that Ferrari, among others, might be interested in his services. However, today, apparently though, that bond of friendship between Newey and Horner, at least if there is some sort of contractual bond in place, is no longer the case. That's now been broken. Newey has already told Red Bull that he will remain loyal to the team even without Horner. So just further indication that Horner's time at the team is probably coming to a close. Whether that's because Jos Verstappen has a personal vendetta against Horner for whatever reason, and therefore Max is more loyal to Marco than he is to Horner, and obviously more loyal to his father than he is to Horner, and that's what's going on, right? It would be quite the story if some sort of vendetta from Jos Verstappen is what causes one of the most stable and dominant teams in Formula 1 history to start to break apart. And even if Horner goes this year, I don't think it's going to have a massive impact on their on-track performances, but in the long run, it's got to be important. Like, there's no doubt that he's done an unbelievable job in that team over the last 20 or so years. If Horner is gone, it's for sure to have some degree of impact. We still don't really know why, or even if this is 100% going to happen, but even further reports that Newey has basically told the guys, look, I'm going to stay, don't worry about it, even if you fire Horner, which is expected anyway, right? Nobody really thinks that Newey's going to leave Red Bull given the situation. Like, he's had opportunities to go to Ferrari and do other things like that before, and like, Look, it's probably not going to happen now, but we'd have said that Hamilton wouldn't join Ferrari, so lightning has already struck once in this sense, and who knows what could happen again. But apparently Newey has said, yep, he's going to stay regardless of what happens over the coming days. But speaking of Ferrari, Hamilton has joined Ferrari. With all the Christian Horner stuff, it's not been swept under the rug precisely, but people have put that to the back burner, while Red Bull have their internal dance and drama and power struggle, whatever's going on behind closed doors. But Hamilton is over to Ferrari. There was talks even from Gasly that it was kept secret for some time, which does raise questions as to how Gasly knew that this was going on. There's a few scenarios. Of course, potentially many of these scenarios could coexist as being the truth as well. We did hear rumours though a few weeks ago that Gasly was an option for Ferrari if they wanted to get rid of Sainz, which they do and now have done, and if they didn't get maybe the drivers they really wanted, which was Hamilton, right? They were going to keep Leclerc anyway. They wanted Hamilton, they got Hamilton. If they didn't get Hamilton, Albon was meant to be at the top of the list, and then Gasly was another option that was being talked about. So that might be why Gasly knew what was going on here, because he was in conversations with Ferrari potentially, and maybe he was also aware that a possibility at Mercedes might open up. And even Esteban Ocon has made it very clear himself about the potential Mercedes seat. Both of these guys were asked about it actually at the Alpine launch, and he said, look, I'm still a Mercedes, okay, junior driver is maybe a little bit ambitious, but you know, he was with the Mercedes guys for some time. That's no secret to anyone, he says. So I think Alpine drivers know that if they could possibly leave and go to Mercedes, I'm sure they would want to. That is clearly a very attractive seat still, even though Hamilton feels like Ferrari is the better option. And Ocon's trying to make his case, maybe Gasly's trying to make his case, especially because Alpine said they're not really expecting to start the season particularly well. That's a bit of a concern if you're an Alpine fan, but there aren't many of them about, to be honest. But we've got to talk about Ferrari, but mainly the response from Christian Horner and Mercedes in terms of what they're going to do to try and convince George Russell and the future of Mercedes that it's the right call. Because at the end of the day, Hamilton leaving is a bit of a dagger to the progress that Mercedes are trying to say that they are making, and also to just the general optimism in the team. If Hamilton doesn't think that's the future of the sport and thinks Ferrari are a better bet, what does that mean if you're Toto Wolff to try and motivate your staff, your employees? Because if Hamilton thinks that, then they might start to think similarly, especially under this whole cost cap era when you can't exactly pay your employees too much to keep them around. Toto Wolff even commented on Hamilton's decision and said that Lewis, doesn't see the future of the team. So these were some interesting statements actually. What was perhaps not so visible for him was that the steam that is in this team, the forward drive to do things better, the mentality of we fall, we get back up again. I have no idea how many times we will fall. I always know we'll get back up again. We're behind here with the new regulations. The others aren't sleeping. We're still moving forwards. And in 20 years, we'll have way more world championships. But that's a long-term perspective. And that doesn't matter for Hamilton anymore. Doesn't play a role for him anymore because he's leaving. But still the idea that Hamilton, didn't see the future trajectory of the team, not really sure I buy that, right? Hamilton's made this decision, at least in part, because Mercedes maybe forced him out by not giving him the contract that he wanted, but also that he felt that Ferrari from 2026, the progress they've made, the engineers they're signing, what Fred Vasseur's cooking up there behind the scenes, felt more positive for him. And Toto Wolff can say all he wants. Look, he's a team principal, he's shareholder. He's got to try and elevate and motivate his employees and say to the board, look, we're moving in the right direction. Hamilton just doesn't see it. Although Hamilton made it very clear in a statement that he made a few days ago that he echoes this move to Ferrari in 25 to what happened when he joined Mercedes in 2013, which firstly implies he thinks Ferrari have the future potential to be the car that Mercedes were in 2026 that they were back in 2014 for Mercedes, but also implies that he feels like Mercedes are going in a similar direction to what McLaren were when he decided to leave them, and he was bang on the money on both times back then. We'll see if that happens again. The other piece though for Mercedes, right, is not only motivating the team to still be confident that they actually can be championship contenders, but keeping some of the top guys. Because let's be honest here, Hamilton will not arrive to Ferrari alone. Whether that's guys from Mercedes coming with him, whether that's other guys coming from other teams wanting to work with Hamilton, the reporting all over the place is that will happen to some extent. The question is, to what extent, and will Hamilton be able to attract some of the key names from Mercedes away? Merc have lost so many key figures over the last several years. Really from 2017 onwards, almost every year there's been a key departure from from that team. Whether it's on the power unit side to the likes of Red Bull, or whether it's Loic Serra in recent times who's joining Ferrari with a year of gardening leave, so he's going to join them in 2025. Even James Vowles, to be honest, leaving to go to Williams. There's been a mass exodus really at Mercedes, and that's probably what you expect when you win the championship for 8 years in a row. People get offered, better opportunities, new challenges, more money maybe elsewhere, and that means that over time you get a bit of a brain drain, and potentially has kind of contributed to Hamilton's feeling that Mercedes is not necessarily the future of the sport or the best team to go to right now. As a result, though, with Hamilton leaving, there was immediately discussions that Hamilton wanted to bring along Andrew Shovlin here on the left-hand side, and of course Peter Bonnington, right, his engineer on the right-hand side, Bono as he is most commonly known, and also Shov and Bono basically, and many other names were also linked to be going with Hamilton to Ferrari. So rumours emerged today that Mercedes are going to try and put this to an end and try and stop Hamilton from getting away with this by putting in place a non-poaching covenant, which prevents Lewis Hamilton from taking engineers with him to Maranello, including Bono, including Shovlin, as we just mentioned. Hamilton is reportedly, and this has now been confirmed to the media, expressly forbidden to even propose to his current collaborators that they follow him to Ferrari in 2025. Now, I imagine this clause or whatever must have already been in the contract, because I can't imagine they've told Lewis, hey, do you mind just signing here real quick, and don't worry what it says on in the fine print, just sign here, that'll be great. I imagine that it's something that they already prepared before so that they can activate it in a circumstance such as this. But let's not forget, Toto Wolff actually said a few days ago that the potential future of Bono, Peter Bonnington, Hamilton's engineer, they've got a very close relationship there, his move to a team like Ferrari is something worth discussing. He said that, as much as I've spoken with Bono already, we're going to need to talk about this going forwards. It's a discussion to have. So it's not like Toto's ruling out the possibility of certain personnel following to Ferrari, but they're going to try and stop Hamilton getting away with this. So Planet F1 actually reached out to Mercedes and said, look, is this true? And they said, yeah, it's true. There's a contract clause which forbids Hamilton from directly poaching staff. But this word directly is kind of important, right? Because while directly he may not be able to have these conversations, that doesn't necessarily mean that these guys won't be joining Ferrari, in which case I'm not sure this actually makes much difference, to be honest, if Ferrari want these guys, and it seems like they're doing everything possible to please Hamilton to get his signature on the piece of paper, so why wouldn't they do everything it would potentially take to get some of these other guys Hamilton wants, but might not be able to expressly say that he wants to Mercedes, to join him as well. Apparently these stipulations have existed before, such as in the Red Bull contract for Vettel when he went to Ferrari, which meant that he was unable to take certain engineers such as Rocky with him, of course his race engineer at the time. But there were reports that despite the fact that Vettel arrived effectively alone from Red Bull when he went to Ferrari when he did, that will not be the case with Hamilton. Giuliano De Chessa from Formula Uno, who was the first guy to break this story initially in the first place, says that Hamilton will not be coming alone to Ferrari. Ferrari wants to please him, opening the doors. Anyone who wants to follow him would be welcome to do so, and it's been widely reported by guys in the know, most certainly, that Hamilton will not be the only man from Mercedes coming along. So they're going to try and get these guys. Mercedes are going to try and stop them getting these guys. But does it actually make any difference? This is the question that I have. What is stopping Hamilton saying to Bono, hey, we're good friends, let's go out for dinner sometime? They go out to dinner and Hamilton says, look, Bono, it's really nice weather in Italy this time of year, I really love it over there, it's just a great time, you've got to come and visit sometime. And it doesn't obviously explicitly mention, maybe you want to join Ferrari, but, Bono would obviously know what that means, right? So this is the thing, Hamilton can't say, Bono, hey, do you want to join me at Ferrari, like here's the contract, all this type of stuff, but he can definitely imply that that should be the case. And also, sure, maybe Hamilton and his team can't directly talk about this with Bono, can't directly talk about this with Shovlin or others, while Toto Wolff is around listening into what they're saying, but it does not prevent at all Hamilton to talk to Ferrari and say, hey, Mr. John Elkann, Mr. Fred Vasseur, do you want to reach out to Bono? Do you want to reach out to whoever? Because there's nothing necessarily stopping them doing that move. Hamilton could just go through Ferrari and say, hey, I want this guy. Can you, make an approach? Say we'll pay this amount of money to get you out of the team and all this type of stuff. And then it really comes down to contracts, right? Because then you get into the whole gardening leave discussions that, let's say Bono does want to leave Mercedes and join Ferrari. and they have that conversation. Maybe Hamilton hasn't explicitly said that, and this could apply to other engineers as well. But of course, Ferrari just so happens to also reach out to Bono and also reach out to, Andrew Shovlin or whichever other guys Hamilton's particularly keen to bring over. They might, just decide to reach out to them of just, of their own accord, shall we say, with Hamilton not, of course, at all involved because of this non-poaching covenant. But then Mercedes would have to consider the whole garden leave side of the operation. For a guy like Andrew Shovlin, guys who work on the real engineering technical side of the car, they will certainly have some sort of clause in their contract, which means if they were to leave, if they were to get bought out, they cannot join another team immediately. That's what happened to Loic Serra. He's only joining those guys in 2025 at Ferrari, despite having left Mercedes a little while ago now. That, I'm sure, would be the case for Shovlin as well. For Bono, it's a little bit less clear. We're never really going to know what the contracts are going to say. But given the fact that Bono works on the pit wall mainly and he's Hamilton's race engineer, I think there is every chance that his contract doesn't necessarily have an explicit non-compete gardening leave type of idea, right? So maybe it's possible that Bono could be Hamilton's engineer at Abu Dhabi 2024 and then still be Hamilton's engineer at Ferrari at Bahrain 2025. Or actually, it might be Australia 2025. There's been rumours actually that Australia is going to be the first Grand Prix on the calendar for the 2025 season. So that might be more possible. And Leo Torini has said that this is almost a done deal, that Bono will be going to Maranello with Hamilton. So we don't really know on this one. But Mercedes are clearly trying to stop Hamilton taking the guys that he wants. But I don't think it's really going to make that much difference. If Hamilton just happens to, direct message Bono on WhatsApp, maybe a link to a property in Maranello, says, wow, this property's really nice, Bono. Like, look at the pool, look at the driveway, look at the amount of space. Just thought you might be interested to have a look. But clearly Mercedes feel, and I think understandably, threatened by this whole situation, right? Hamilton leaving is a massive blow in and of itself. Like, not even considering the possibility of many other top guys trying to go as well. So Mercedes will try and protect themselves. They'll try and continue all this positive steam that apparently they have, that Toto Wolff keeps talking about, that Hamilton doesn't necessarily see. But I'm not sure that this no poaching covenant is going to make that much difference in the medium to longer term. Just one final thing to mention here for you guys. Gunther Steiner has actually come out kind of publicly and talked about the Gene Haas replacement whole situation and literally said, I wanted to invest in the team. He did it. That's why we eventually parted ways. And even Ai Komatsu, their new team boss, has said that they will basically certainly be the 10th fastest car at Bahrain, which is not really the optimism that you want to see for a team that's tried to pretend that they actually provide value to the sport, especially when said team does not exactly have the greatest reputation for in-season development. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. As I say again, thanks for the massive support over the last few days. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.